All right. So let's get started. We have guests that are part of our book club that cover all different types of topics. But tonight we have Charlene Walters, who I've gotten a chance to know for I don't know how many years now. I think 5 years.
About that.
I'm having some flashbacks of some of our conversations, but we've done interviews together, we've been on shows together, and Charlene has a very unique book that you might have seen her on National Inventor Club on some of the some of the intros on Inventor National Inventor Club, giving some tips and advice every month with us when she can. But tonight, the floor is hers, and she has her book, Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur. She's very active with women entrepreneurship, and it looks like there's a lot of women on here, but she doesn't discriminate because her book also allows us to be men and take the same great advice for us. And she's helped me and inspired me as well with all her information that she's provided. So I know that in her book, in the beginning, there's a lot of brainstorming and ideation and kind of getting the idea out. But then once we have that idea, we have to be our own manager. We have to be our own leader, whether we're making decisions to have somebody else work with us or for us, or is it you just taking it on? No matter which direction it is, you need to be a leader. You need to make decisions. You need to take action. You need to take control. And that's what Charlene will share with us this evening. So, Charlene, thank you for joining us. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your book, maybe a lot about your book, and then we're going to dig into some of the pages.
Sounds perfect. So, hi, everyone. My name is Charlene Walters, and I do a lot of things. I'm an author, of course, and I teach for a few universities. I teach for the University of Connecticut and the University of Alaska Anchorage, and I teach entrepreneurship, marketing, all kinds of classes, whatever they throw at me. And I do a lot of writing. You've probably seen me in Forbes, Apple News, Quora, I'm in a lot. I'm a featured expert. So I talk a lot about marketing, business, entrepreneurship, and I really am passionate about people just launching their own inventions, their own products, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. So it's definitely an honor to be here talking with all of you tonight, and I'm sure you'll inspire me with things I'll learn from you. But what my book is about, it's called Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur, as Brian said. And it talks about developing an entrepreneurial mindset and making certain shifts within your mind so that you can think more like an entrepreneur, because being an entrepreneur is hard and you need the resilience and grit. And you all know that because you have been living this entrepreneurial lifestyle for a while. And as Brian mentioned, I wanted to talk about leadership tonight because a lot of you are at different stages of your journey. So I thought that leadership would be the most applicable mindset shift for all of you. And my book actually has kind of a workbook at the end to help you develop your entrepreneurial mindset. So we'll be talking about the leadership mindset shift, and then we'll be talking a little bit about the development plan for helping you get into that mode. And I'd love to throw out a lot of questions to all of you so that this is interactive and I'm not talking at you this whole entire time. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Charlene.
You're
So
welcome.
uh, I know that your book is quite thick. There's got
Yes.
a lot of chapters to it, but as you mentioned, tonight is about leadership. So what we're going to do is this is going to be kind of interactive conversation. So, Charlene, if you can read some of the highlights of your book that you've kind of prepared for us, and then let's
Yes.
talk about it. Look, we're all here to grow, to help each other. That's kind of my motto for this whole Inventor Smart community. So we have Charlene. She has a PhD. All she does is live, breathe entrepreneurship, marketing. So we have good access here to be able to get our questions answered. So Charlene, if you could start us off and maybe read a little bit of your book.
Sure. I will start with reading chapter 8, which is leading your startup. What's both amazing and terrifying about becoming an entrepreneur is that you are no longer an employee. You are now a leader, leading yourself, your company, and all of your employees. This is the chance you've been waiting for after being held back or dealing with bad leaders in the past. As your startup grows, so will your team, and excelling at leadership will be paramount to your success. In a recent study, Guided Financial found that one of the main reasons for small business failure is poor recruitment and retention of employees. These employee-related issues are indicative of a lack of entrepreneurial leadership and team-building skills, which may be more challenging for some to hone and develop. This is the result sometimes, particularly for women, of a gender leadership gap, according to research from the American Association of University Women. Their research states, and again, as Brian mentioned, I want to pause for a minute. This book is aimed at women entrepreneurs. However, many men have read the book, and a lot of this applies to both. So don't think I'm singling out women only. It is focused towards women, but both can apply. But in general, women are much less likely than men to be in leadership positions. And if women aren't actually serving as leaders in this traditional sense at these roles in their companies where they are employed, then it's difficult to acquire the leadership skills when they're ready to launch their businesses. And the same applies for men who are also trying to launch businesses. If they've never served in that type of position before, they may have some difficulties. So this chapter really talks about the mindset shift that's required for you to step into your leadership power as an entrepreneur. You're the head of your startup. Yes, you can do this, so listen up. So that's just kind of the intro, kicking it off.
Very cool. Does anybody have anything they want to comment on? Okay.
I think
Sean,
I'll say
go ahead.
something. You know, when you mentioned that, I'll stop here, step back, and let you guys come up to the forefront. I identify with that, and I was like, wow, that is a leadership skill. And you just read it because we sort of take that role of doing everything, and then we begin to allocate some things to other people. And I thought that was a very good example of
Well,
it.
Sean, you haven't really we always see you, but we don't know much about your background, most of us. I do, but you're a successful business lady. You've built a business for yourself and you've been running it. Maybe you could just share with us your quick history.
I'm actually a retired insurance. I had an insurance company and a public tag agency in Louisiana and became an inventor in 2018. And I feel like I work more now as an inventor than I did before I retired from insurance. But I am in market with my invention, and which means that I do the manufacturing and the sourcing and all of that stuff there in my business. So I'm pretty busy. It's a lot of moving wheels. So it's a lot of moving wheels.
Anybody else? Thank you, Sean. Anybody else have any comments? Well, I'll mention something. So look, most of us are in a profession. We didn't wake up saying, I'm going to be an inventor. I have this idea. Let's figure it out. So many of us are just kind of in our day job. And all of a sudden we came up with this idea and it's like, okay, do I just let it go? Or am I going to stop and say, you know what? Maybe I got something here. Let me figure out what the next steps might be. And at that point, you're a leader because you're going to have to make decisions. And you don't necessarily need to know everything, right, Charlene? You don't need to know everything, but you align yourself with people that can bring you to the next level. So, Charlene, from your experience, how important is it to build a leadership team? And it doesn't have to be, here's the CEO, here's this, but just people that know or have been there, done that, to be able to kind of guide you through those steps and then be able to build those teams. So like the first people that you start to interact with probably are the most important.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that. And, there are a lot of moving pieces, as both you and Sean said, and there's a lot going on, and you're often dealing with things that you haven't dealt with before. So I find that, and we'll get into a little bit about kind of choosing people, but I find that, sometimes you just have to keep looking. Like I think you and I, Brian, talked about, I was looking for a patent attorney, and I had to talk to so many different people before I found the exact right fit. And I think that's important to know, that you can't possibly know everything when you're just starting out with something different that's outside of your comfort zone. And you've got to kind of find the right people. And it's a process to do that. And then when you start realizing, as I think Sean mentioned, or maybe Brian, you mentioned, you can't do everything yourself, right? There's no way. So you have to kind of be able to identify those people who can best support you where you have a deficit, and where they can help you fill in and get the job done.
It's like, oh my goodness, what did we get in? What did we get ourselves into? Right? There's a lot of you that I've spoken to, right, Carolyn? Like, all right, so I invented this tool. Then what do I do now? Right? So you see that there's leaders that are out there. You see people that
Yeah.
you can align with to say, you know what, this person can help me, and I need to either hire them or learn from them. We're all on here learning. So maybe we could take pieces of the information that Charlene and our conversation here that can help you to make better decisions. And that's the thing, Charlene. Do you find that working with entrepreneurs uh, in all different aspects, do you find that I guess we make emotional decisions instead of business decisions? You might have heard me all say this before, but I just wanted to get Charlene's take on that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. And I sometimes find too, and I'm guilty of this myself, so this is no way a knock on any entrepreneurs in general. We're all very impatient. We want something to hit overnight, to be instantly successful. And I find sometimes that people in general have a tendency to go down one path and it doesn't work, they think, and then they're switching instead of just sticking on that, same path. Unless there's a real problem, like it just takes a lot of work and a long time to get there. It's not this instant win ever. And I think, in my experience, that's one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs, inventors to kind of deal with sometimes, is just kind of getting there.
I always say, like, we get this feeling, we're excited. They told us our invention is amazing, it's great and wonderful. And no matter what they say, it's like, okay, I'm in, right?
Yes.
But like anything else, when you're building a house, you have construction, you're shopping for car, whatever it is, you should always do your research,
Yes.
compare, get estimates, understand, find out resources or references, and be able to help make a better decision from a business fact rather than just what your gut is telling you. And if that's available, that's fine. If you're impatient, that's fine. Take a deep breath, right? And
Yes.
step back to be able to make that better decision. So,
Right.
Charlene, there are so many people out there. How do we know really where to go to find this help? So, okay, with the invention, it's one thing, but let's say we want to start a business. What are some initial, you say, okay, I decided that I'm going to go into business for myself. We can put aside invention for a second, but again, when you come up with an idea, you started a business, no matter where you're at. So, Charlene, when we come up with this idea, business, we're starting this business, what should we do first?
So what we should do first is really kind of research the market, see what's out there, what other products and services are similars. Then we really got to hit the ground running. And I think, Brian, you and I have talked about this a bunch of times, but really just talking to people. We might think something is amazing, wonderful, and much needed, but then, it won't resonate with the target audience. So we want to talk to a lot of people. We want to observe people, what they're already buying in this case. And then we want to do our research and find out how we can improve it, what their pain points are with the product or service, and then how we can improve upon those, which of course, a lot of your inventions are kind of improving on something that is a gap in the market, or it's something that needs to be done better. So that's what we need to do. Then we need to kind of organize, come up with a business plan. And it doesn't have to be a huge 80-page document, but just in our ideas and strategies about moving forward in the business. And then I always say, one of the first people you should talk to is your business attorney, who can help and set up your company, set up your LLC, get yourself going. And I have one that I use all the time. And so moving forward from everything you do, when you're setting up contracts, when you're looking over contracts, anything, you have this person who can help you out. So that's one of the first people that should be on your roster. If you're struggling in certain areas you don't know much about, there are so many people out there who can help you. There's a lot of different mentors, there's coaches, there's access through the SBA. There's just a lot of places you can get people to help you. Most recently, I come from an education, marketing, curriculum background, and I launched into a tech product recently. So tech was something I'm familiar with, but something that I needed a little help with. So I reached out and I have someone helping me with some issues that are new to me, and it's really helped me a great deal. So even though I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I also need help at times too.
And how do you find that help, Charlene?
So I ended up getting an advisor through SCORE. And then I think I talked about the patent attorney is something I needed help with. So I kind of did my own research and kind of did little, meet and greets on Zoom just to figure out if we were all on the same page, because everyone will have a different strategy, a different idea. And sometimes, you don't even have to follow somebody's advice exactly. You take a piece from different things and see what really resonates with you, what you want from the business. That's another important consideration when you're starting out is, what do I want to do with this thing? Do I want to sell it to somebody else? Do I want to run this company? Do I want to grow it to be this big, huge enterprise, or do I want it to be a side hustle? And those are all important considerations when you're kind of figuring out your path to move forward.
Does anybody have any comments or any questions at this point for Charlene? Okay. Sean, if you could just take a moment and share, because Charlene, that's what Sean did when she first started, and I'm going to pick on you a little bit. She just, and you might have heard this, she did a Google search and she ended up circling around in not the pleasant of
Oh, no.
places. So, Sean,
yeah.
if you can share as a leader, because you said, I'm going to be a leader, I retired, I'm going to do this invention thing. And what did you do, and what are some lessons that you can share with us?
Oh boy. I didn't know how bad I was doing until I came across someone that had some experience and that was showing me how it's done the right way. But in the beginning, by me not knowing anything, no matter who I talked to or who I came in contact with, everything they told me sounded right because I didn't know. And I ended up being in a place that where I could have lost everything. It could have just totally stopped my whole process. And one of the best decisions I made was bringing on a coach. And it's so important. And you talk about that, about surrounding yourself with people. When I start learning how to like build relationships and connections and network, that's when things really started to take off for me, because I started surrounding myself with people who had me in their best interests, people that wanted to see me grow and get to where I was trying to go, and they were already there. So that was one of the best things that happened for me, for my growth and going from one level to the other level, and getting to where it was that I was trying to go, and that was in market. So it's been real interesting. That's why this community is so important to me, because in my very beginning, I didn't have all of these people to go and consult with, you know.
You know
That
what?
was more of an ally than a competitor.
You know what?
Definitely.
When Sean kind of started and went through, she was stuck in many different places, and we had a chance to connect, and I just kind of took over as a leader. I mean, everybody can call themselves a leader. I kind of took charge and said, Sean, you've been running companies, you started, you did a super job to this point, but there's
Yeah.
certain things here that you
Yeah.
just kind of need a little bit more. So
Yeah.
just kind of bringing her to a certain level that she needed to be to keep keep herself moving forward. And now, what do you say? You graduated.
I'm in college now. I was in
Yeah.
kindergarten back then.
No, but look,
I'm in
sometimes
college now.
look, when we're not dumb, we're just naive to things that we don't know
Oh,
until we know them, right?
yeah,
And sometimes people have already been in your place
yeah,
and can see things a little bit differently. And look, I'm not looking to put myself on a pedestal or put myself like that, but I listen to people with their invention ideas for 18 plus years now. I have my own invention. So when I am working with somebody, I don't know everything, but enough to make an educated decision that
yeah,
this most likely is going to move you to a better level than you're at. And if it works, that's great. If it doesn't, you hit a brick wall and you try again. And you hit a brick wall, you try again until you get through. And those are the type of leadership skills that I think everybody needs to be thoughtful of. Is that, look, when we're inventing, it's a journey. I don't care how many times I do it. Every product idea, I should say, that starts off with an idea before a product has its
yeah.
own personality. They take off,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
How many kids you have? They all
yeah,
have different personalities.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
So it's
yeah,
something to think about and keep yourself so it's moving forward.
yeah. And you grow
Definitely.
into leadership. When I first started with a coach, I had this false sense of security, because I knew if I ran into a problem or when I had a question or uncertainty, now I have this person like the big guns. I can go over here and get the big guns, right? I had that false sense of like it's security with that. And I remember Brian told me, he said, one day you're gonna something about getting kicked out of the nest or something. And I was like, why? Well, guess what? I'm kicked out of the nest. So it's like I have to be a big girl, but I do get to like lean on like my coach when I need something. And it's less and less because I have grown by having people around me. So it's very important. In order to be a good leader, you must first be a good follower.
You know what?
Definitely. I
Th-
agree.
This
Mhm.
isn't about Sean and myself.
Yeah.
These are some things just to kind of put out there, and Charlene, the points that she's making for
Yeah.
you to think about yourselves as leaders.
Yeah.
So, Charlene, what else do you have for us?
Mhm.
So I can just kind of go on for a little bit in the book about different ways that we can develop our leadership skills, but we kind of went past this. But this paragraph is really about just knowing what a leader is. So the first part of making this shift is realizing that there is a difference between managers and leaders. So leaders are special and so much more than managers. The manager is just someone who people report to on a day-to-day basis, but a leader is someone who people really look up to and are motivated by. A person who inspires their team to grow, develop, and perform at higher levels. So a leader cares about her employees and their forward trajectory, whereas a manager is really only interested in what people can do for them or for them personally, right? Or for the company. I'm sure many of you had to report to someone like that, right? I'm sure we all have in the past. And, I did once too, and it didn't end well. He ended up taking credit for all my work and just kept putting more on me. So wasn't a great experience. If we really think of those bad managers in our past and know that their behavior is what we want to avoid, we'll learn an important lesson. Similarly, when we reflect back on those leaders who inspired us to reach for more, we can learn from them as well. What was it about them that had that effect on you? I've had several who've always pushed me or motivated me to grow, and I'm sure you have too. Leading a startup really is about putting others' needs ahead of your own, encouraging progress by setting a positive example, being to roll up your sleeves and pitch in, lighting the way for others while inspiring action, and showcasing the talent and accomplishment of your employees. Being a true business leader requires seeing yourself as and then becoming someone whom others can look up to and are motivated by, and who stirs your team to grow, develop, and perform at higher levels. So take your leadership role head on and overcome any inhibitions in order to realize your full potential for running a business and heading your startup. Additional support, as we've been talking about, can lift your confidence in business decision-making and should be sought after and initiated on your own. It can come in the form of taking leadership courses, reading books and articles, looking for mentors and role models to help you in developing your emotional intelligence. You can pause for a minute there.
That's great. And also invent a smart community, because we have our own community,
Yes.
Charlene, that if we have a question, without really exposing our idea, we can ask the community. And it seems like everybody's kind of ready and willing to share. So those type of support, it sounds like support is very important. But it's interesting what you were saying is that, look, just growing up and being always kind of working and making my own money and everything else, who the good leaders were, who inspired me, who I couldn't stand to work with or for. And it's kind of put somewhere, kind of rounded me to say, you know what? Is that how I want to be treated? I want to treat people the way that I think I would want to be treated, the way I want to be treated, and what the expectations are. I think that I've learned that setting expectations with people, what to ask for and what to expect and when to expect it by, puts communication much easier to get things done. And that's one trait that I've learned, is when somebody tells me they're going to do something, most of the time my next two words are by when. And it's not it's important, because you hold yourself accountable if it's something that you promise that you're going to get done by when, and the other person. Is there anybody else on that wants to participate and maybe share a manager that you've had or a leader that you've had that's inspired you? Going once. Nobody works.
I think you made a good point, Brian, about the community. Oh, Lori had a comment.
Hey, Lori, thank you.
I was looking for my little bottom area here was covered. But yeah, so I have had leaders in the form of bosses, and as I look back, I feel that I've always connected best with leaders who, when you do go in to talk with them, they're sitting at their desk doing work. And you know that you're there, you've made an appointment with them, but they're doing something, and then they set that aside and then they talk and focus right with you. Sometimes I feel like we have this impression, well, and it's sometimes created by that leader, that they're kind of watching, surveying, making some decisions, and that's great, and that's what they should be doing. But to have their own work related to the business, I think helps them connect with those people who are also doing some work, some actual, producing something that is on a timeline or just is something like on the to-do list. And I think that having an opportunity, and in small businesses, you definitely have an opportunity to work right alongside with the people who are working for you or you are working with, because it's all hands on deck, right? And so I think that taking an opportunity to always show that you are also working, or asking that person, even if it's something that you've asked them to do, can you help? I think that is key to helping everyone, and especially a small organization, 2 or 3 people, understand that this is shared across all people, this work. I think that's really valuable.
I agree. And I like too what Brian said about having the community, the Inventor Smart community, and talking to other entrepreneurs, because it gets lonely and isolating, and people have been through different experiences. So I like that. And I agree that, I've always found the best leaders are those that can just kind of jump in there and work side by side when you need to. You have a big order or a big something to get out there, and you're telling your team, you got to get this out, and then you're heading home out the door on time. It's really not going to go over very well. So I agree with those points.
Thank you. Lori, you kind of in the beginning of your thoughts there, I almost kind of veered towards you saying about a manager being approachable because they were working and somebody came. So that's probably a really another important trait. Charlene, what's your take on being approachable?
Yes. So actually, my next paragraph was on sharpening your soft skills. So being approachable is a big is a big, big, big part of leadership. Just having people know that they can talk to you about everything, and really that you care about them as individuals and about their kind of forward momentum. And I find that, the more, I think someone mentioned, I can't remember now, but empowering employees is such a big deal. Like, we don't want to be kind of over them with all the power. We want to rise them up so that if we're out for a day or we're gone for a half an hour, or we're in a meeting, they can actually kind of make that decision for you. So yeah, being approachable is really important. People want to be seen, heard. They want to know that they're valuable. So that's really a big part of it.
And remember, when you're starting to hire people to help you, engineers, prototypers, coaches, licensing, whatever, you're the boss.
Right.
You're the boss. You're the one that makes the decisions. There are people that will suggest things to you, but you need to be the boss. Maybe they have a little bit more experience with you than you, but at the end of the day, you are the boss. Okay, you're the one with the paycheck. They will listen. It doesn't have to be multiple employees. It could be one employee. It could be that one person that you hired to manage other people. It doesn't matter. Remember that you're in charge. This is your venture. This is your business. This is your idea that you are working on. So keep that in mind, because I'm not saying to be a tough guy or girl. I'm just saying that you have to remember where you are. You're not used to it because you're doing other things, but now you're in that position and you have to take that role. Anybody
Yes.
want to add any comments? Any other people that would like to participate? Here's your chance. You got Charlene Walters. She charges for consulting. People pay for her classes at major universities, and she's authored a best-selling book. And here she is with us. So you have a chance to pick her brain while we have her.
I have
Okay,
another question. Oh, there.
Herb would like to ask a question. Okay, Charlene and the rest of the community,
Yes.
does the USPTO certify coaches, or they kind
You're
of like,
asking Charlene. I mean, she's active with Inventors with us in our group. They have registered agents that can communicate to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for you, but I don't. They're not involved in the commercialization of your invention. There's a few people like Charlene, and I think Jose, even though he might not have had the greatest experience with a mentor, it's only one person that you might not have had a great experience with. There's thousands of SCORE mentors. Some have had great experiences. I've been working with SCORE mentors, on both sides for quite some time. And I guess it's just whoever you get matched with. But maybe, Herb, that might be something to consider if you're looking for kind of a free resource coach that can align. Like, usually what they do is they try to match you up with something that's related to what you're working on business wise.
yeah,
So
but if you wanted to do this on a sort of private consultancy kind of basis, how do you find those coaches?
well,
Freelancers, let's say,
with what?
a freelancer type
Oh,
coach.
freelancers. When you want to find somebody to do a business plan, you find somebody with the experience to do a business plan. You want somebody who's built. Charlene's working on a tech product, so she's probably going to find somebody that is successful that's worked on a similar type of tech product to be able to pick their brain, not only for the resources of maybe putting the business together or manufacturing or marketing and things that people kind of she's aligned with already, to possibly distribution or commercialization. So you got to kind of align with people that have already kind of been there, done that. I think as close as possible to that you could get to what you're doing. What do you think about that, Charlene?
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of different coaches and mentors out there, and everyone specializes in different areas. So you may have to talk to more than one person for different aspects of your business, right? but there definitely are a lot out there. I mean, even something as simple as looking on LinkedIn, you can find a lot of people, or just depending on what you do. Again, I did have a positive experience with SCORE, but I saw that was Jose, right? That did not have such a good experience. And I think it is a question of finding the right fit and kind of talking to people and see who you feel comfortable with. And again, I think it's important to know that, you want to listen to your coach, but you also have to go with your gut and do what's right for you too, because it's kind of a marriage between the two, between listening to others and then coming to your own conclusion. As Brian said, you're the leader of your product and your startup. So you could find different people for different areas. It's pretty easy to find coaches for who have knowledge and somewhere you might need a little extra boost.
Great. Thank you. Richard,
Thank you.
thank you, Herb. If you all no pressure, if you're able to hop on video for a second so we could see you, it's nice, but you don't have to. Richard, go ahead.
Sure. I guess my question for anyone who has experience in this is, whether or not to have a business plan. Obviously, for licensing purposes, if you're not going to launch a business, do manufacturing distribution, you might not need a business plan just to license. But I always had this argument in my head, because I attend a lot of SCORE webinars, and they talk about the importance of a business plan. But then there's also the idea of, you just figure it out as you go along, and there's always a lot of that either way. But would anyone speak about the importance of drafting some sort of business plan, even if the ultimate goal is to do licensing?
So, Charlene, maybe you can just give us some quick advice on a business plan, and I'm going to talk to you from a inventor perspective, Richard, on basically hitting the ground licensing every day and what's kind of needed when I do make my presentations.
Definitely. So Richard, you're talking to a college professor, so yes, I'm going to tell you to make that business plan. But I guess the important thing to remember about that is really it's just organizing your ideas, your plan for action, your timeline, your financial resources, what you're going to need in terms of money to get there to make it happen. So it's really about organizing your thoughts. The thing with a business plan, it's not set in stone, as you mentioned. A lot of us are pivoting all the time as entrepreneurs, as business owners. We have to keep changing. So that's going to keep changing over time. But I think it's important to really kind of set that initial foundation. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just to kind of get yourself going. And if you're already in business and you didn't have one, maybe you do a business plan for your next steps moving forward and what's next on your agenda. That's my take personally.
Thank you, Charlene. You know what? When people come to me, Charlene, because I have a chance to speak to many inventors, and sometimes they don't even call themselves an inventor. Like, I'm not an inventor. I came up with this idea, and I don't know what to do next. And it's really about formulating. Well, who are you? Tell me a little bit about you. Let me learn about what you've come up with, and let's figure out to kind of help you to make better business decisions like we spoke about earlier. So, what does licensing look like so you can possibly earn royalties? Some people say, I want to sell my invention. What does that mean? Does that mean that you want to manufacture and start your own business and make 5 colors of your invention with different sizes and then put some other products around it to build a brand for yourself? So what is your plan? That's the plan. From coming up with an idea, it's tough to kind of get it. Like, if we're going to license it, when you're kind of putting this plan together and you're pitching companies that are in the space and we're in some other profession, sometimes it's a little bit of fluff to me, Charlene. Like, oh, this product, this is a $15 billion industry, and if we do 1% of this, and you're talking to companies that are in the business, and this is what they do for a living every day. So how important is it to preach how much the industry is, and just taking that fraction of a percent and making $200 million? We hear a lot of that. And just one other point, I sometimes I catch inventors like a little bit further down, where they do have a business plan, and they show me business plans, Charlene, of $1.2 million that they need for an invention, or $2.5 million. And when I kind of get my hands around it, by the time we're done, and I'm not exaggerating either, sometimes it might be like 7 to 10,000. And that's like all in, maybe some marketing added on top and stuff like that, relative to what your product is that you're coming up with. But sometimes these, the way that it expands doesn't always have to be. So what's your take on that? Like, what's the realistic way to really put something in writing? So, and is it for yourself or an investor?
So I say, use the business plan for yourself. And then for an investor, you're more talking about pitching, right? So you have to put your pitch deck together, and you're more or less not only you want them to invest in your product or service or whatever your business idea is, but you also want them to invest in you. So it's just important in that pitch to sell yourself. I think the important thing with the business plan, as you mentioned, is being realistic, doing your research, and really kind of getting your ducks in a row before you jump into things. That's my advice on that. As you're saying, some people, if they're really off, then they probably haven't done the right research, right? So for pitching to investors, you want to come up with a pitch deck. They're going to want to know about any traction you have. They're going to want to know, do you have any kind of interest in your product, any patents pending, anything that can really help them kind of launch onto your product. And then just realistic sales numbers. They want to make sure you kind of understand how much it's going to cost to produce the product, how much you can sell it for. Is this realistic? Have you tested with customers? Have you gotten feedback? So those kind of things. So I think the business plan, in my eyes, is really more for you as a jumping point to get going versus the investors.
Thank you. Richard, so real quick, when I'm pitching for potential licensees, they're not reading business plans. They're not reading all these heavy, like, sell sheets. Most of the time they're for buyers to know what the dimensions are, the weights, the formation, or the types of ways that your product is being sold. But for the most part, for the most part, Richard, most of the time I can show them a quick video, if it's something that is demonstrable, to be able to catch their interest, pique their interest. And then if it's something that does, then I could get into the weeds a little bit more about some reasons. But I think the main focus should be on what's in it for them. Like Charlene's saying, like, do you have patents? You have this, you're building assets. Like, the whole purpose, whether it's for an investor or for a potential licensee, is to give them a competitive advantage. What's going to make you different than everybody else out there? Are you going to have that monopoly for that specific product or business in the market, the way that you're going to do it? That's really what it is. And then figuring out how far deep you are into it with kind of development. While you're talking to them, they're thinking, oh, I have to have my development team involved. I have to have my marketing team involved. Then I have to show the buyer. The buyer has to think about their customer. So if you come all the way back to where you are from the start, and you can look all the way out there and kind of bring it in this way, you'll have a better conversation all the way through the light of the tunnel. Okay, I don't want to make this too much of that kind of session, but I think that's something that everybody can kind of take away from, whether you're doing it yourself or somebody's doing it for you. Like that, it definitely helps. Just a simple, demonstrable video just to pique somebody's interest, not heavy, text and reading and industry numbers that they should know because that's their business, and you're kind of stepping into it from the side. So anybody else want to ask Charlene questions? I like to hear more with Charlene answering your questions. She's like a lawyer that we don't have to pay right now. She's a
Ari
coach.
had her hand up, Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so my question goes back a little bit to the conversation about leadership and bringing people on to your team. I have a product that's very specifically in the cycling industry, and I have been trying to find that middle point between bringing people into and right now my focus is on a larger marketing, like a launch and a marketing perspective beyond what I just do for the social media marketing that I'm doing right now. And I really want to be able to find a person who is as passionate about cycling as I am, or deep into the business end of marketing or of cycling. And I wanted to get a sense of how important is that alignment to finding a partner for what you need to get done.
Yeah, I think it's a judgment call. Sometimes you could kind of go either way. I think you have to go with your gut. I always say that with people and talk to a few people, and I think it becomes more obvious to you. In terms of promoting your business and marketing, I think it does give you an advantage to get somebody who's more passionate about cycling, definitely.
And
But
sometimes, Lori, it's
sometimes,
not the
okay.
easiest to find exactly what you're looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yes.
if they can kind of align with understanding what it is that you have, and you see that they get it. If they're, almost like, can you repeat that back to me? Like, what's your vision right off the bat? And you can know right away if they're into it or they're not. And just because you told somebody your idea doesn't mean that you're committed or obligated to them. Be that leader and make that decision. Be the boss.
Yeah,
Interview other people just like you would if you had a corporation running. Before you hire somebody, you probably look at a couple candidates, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks
I,
for that. It is
and
a
I
kind of down the
find
middle of
too,
the
a lot
road.
of times it comes down to prices for certain people, right? Or how much is this or how much is that person? And sometimes I find that the more people I talk to, I eventually get to that kind of happy medium that you're talking about. So sometimes it's just about talking to enough people. It might be 4 people, it might be 5 people, it might be 6 people, but eventually you're going to find kind of the perfect candidate,
Yeah.
in my experience.
And know what the threshold is. Remember, we talked about setting expectations. Give them short little milestones, right, Charlene? Short little
Yes.
milestones to test before you go all in. I think that's
Yeah.
a good lesson I've learned.
I
Oh,
agree too. Yeah, just hire them temporary to do one task or one job and then see if you like that and then decide to continue before kind of, yeah, going all in. Agreed.
You know what? When I look for a new factory, Lori, sometimes people hire me to find factory in China or wherever overseas. The way that I vet the factory is I do a simple transaction with them. You have products you're already making or you sell. Let me take a look. Okay, I want that one. I want to make the payment. I want to take a look through your factory. I go on video, I look through their factory, and then I say, okay, send it to me. And when they send it to me, I've gotten boxes that I opened up and I don't even know what was living in it. Okay. I'm just saying. And then
Yeah.
there's some that are professionally packaged. They did what they said that they were going to do. They were going to send it out at this time. They sent me a tracking number. Or did they just not give an F and they just, sent it the way it is? And that's the kind of quality and experience that I'm going to have. Skip it. Next. I
okay.
just got off the phone before we started here with a gentleman who I've known for a long time and I've been helping. And he's working with a tooler. And let me tell you something. We learned the first time with him that it wasn't a great experience, and he wanted to make some adjustments to his tool because he wanted to add a feature, and he's having the same crappy experience. And I told him, remember the first time? And I'm not saying I told you so. That's not the thing. Test, experiment, make decisions, not because it's easy. Sometimes it doesn't have to, it might not be easy. You might have to try again and find somebody and vet them. It's annoying. It's like if you're, in a relationship or whatever, you're dating and it's not going well. Do you stay with that person because it's comfortable, or do you have to go through it again? Yes, you might have to until you find the right one. And look at us now. Some of us are happily married and some of
Yeah.
us aren't, but that's a different story.
Yeah. And just to follow up on that, and this might be, I'm watching the time here, but for freelancers and for kind of short term, does anyone have a site like Fiverr or
Fiverr Pro. Us as
Fiverr.
Inventor
Oh, that's right.
Smart
We had
Yeah.
the person on. Yes. Okay.
Inventor Smart Community. If you go to fiverrinventor.com, we have a coupon code and we have
That's
access to
right. Yeah.
all the vetted people that Fiverr has vetted to make sure that they're qualified for us, for our community. So that was big initiative for us, and we got it. So
Yeah.
definitely take advantage.
Yeah. And I remember that. And I think that, yeah, just if that's, the still stands out as the top, I'm happy to do it. That's great.
Good stuff. Charlene, you've been doing this for a very long time. You're a PhD, best-selling author, consultant, educator. What are some words of wisdom for us? We're at all different. Darnella, just put yourself on mute for a second. What are some words of wisdom that you can share with us so we can become better leaders and be better bosses and make better decisions?
So I think, a lot of it boils down to a lot of the things we talked about tonight, but a lot of it is sharpening your soft skills, really working on becoming a better salesperson, a better motivator, a better communicator, helping people feel comfortable in you. You're selling yourself all the time. So work on your personal brand, work on your presentation, work on being able to sell your product or service. That's a big part of it. I talked a little bit with Lori about using your intuition. I think that is something that you have to do. Like sometimes it's scary to make decisions and you're choosing between different options, but go with your gut. Your gut is usually right. And it will tell you, when you're making a good mood. And if you don't, the worst thing that can happen is you have to just kind of regroup and start again. Like even if you go with the wrong person, then you just have to just go back and find someone else. It's a lot about trial and error sometimes too. So I think that's all really important in leadership, surrounding yourself with the right people. And sometimes it's not your first person. You might have to, again, just kind of keep digging deep and knowing, that it's important to lead with both your mind, have your numbers, have your stats, but also kind of go with your heart too. What's important to you? What's important to your business? So those are some general ideas about leadership and just, treat people the way you'd want to be treated. And all of that will come back to you. And I think another good thing that we don't talk about enough is just understanding your own personality too. You could take a personality test and understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then how you can leverage those to kind of work with other people. I think that's really important. And just become the type of role model you want to see, or that, that's inspired you in the past that people can look up to and work with. So those are all important parts. Of course, be flexible, but be rigid at the same time. Brian talked about holding people accountable, and you need to do that to be a leader. But at the same time, have some flexibility too. We're all people. We all have different things going on in our lives. So you have to kind of find that balance.
Does anybody want to share any comments with Charlene? Any takeaways that you feel like something that she's mentioned or in our book club this evening that might inspire you, or you might look at a little bit differently after this?
I have an idea about parallel avenues, creativity, and inventions when it comes to marketing. In the marketing world, consistency is like a key word, but you have to have enough going on to have repetition lead you to consistency. You couldn't have one idea one time and you try to do it for only once and expect to have consistency. But somehow, as you go through the process, maybe the way to build consistency is also by repetition. So if you can repeat, you say, repetition is the mother of, could be the mother of invention. Because if you do something once and it's not shaping up properly, or it's not refined enough, having the habit of just doing it over and over and over until you get to that point where it's almost like just what it needs to be, not what it should be or could be. You just have there's a point there where the consistency pays off. You're
Thank you,
not
Herb.
slapping it together and expecting to have the kind of outcome and results of this great inventor did the best thing in the world. So
Mhm. Thank you, Herb. Anybody else? Any final comments? Any thoughts? Anything you'd like to say to Charlene?
I'd like to ask a quick question. If there's a specific part of that book that really resonates with you that you'd like to share with us, could you read that to us now? Or is that not time enough for that?
I don't know if we have time enough, but I can talk to you a little bit. A lot of it is about, you know, self-confidence. I think being an entrepreneur is really about being confident in yourself. And that's hard for all of us. We struggle sometimes. We doubt ourselves, especially, you know, we're investing a lot of time and money, and maybe we think we should be working at a company or doing something else. So I think for me, I think it's about really developing your confidence, knowing that you can do it, having positive self-talk, and just surrounding yourself with people who can help you and help lift you up when you get stuck. And I think, you know, it's about, we've mentioned it many times, about continuing to move forward even when you have obstacles. And I think sometimes, and in my book, there's a lot of prompts for that, but really just kind of knowing what to do when you get stuck and who can help you become unstuck. I think that's it. And talking to yourself positively and believing in yourself, that's half the battle. That's why some people give up and some people keep going. And we know we have to keep going. So that's probably the most important kind of takeaway I would give you as someone who deals and works with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Great lessons learned tonight. Charlene,
I appreciate that.
thank you, Joe. Thanks for your question. Any chance of maybe a book to give
Oh
out?
yeah, definitely. I understand we're going to have a raffle for the book tonight, and there'll be a couple of winners. I'm not sure how it all works behind the scene, but I hope that you'll check out the book, or hopefully you'll win the book right tonight, or check it out. It's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and anywhere you can find books, you can find it. But thank you so much, everyone. I wish you all the best with your products and your inventions, and thanks for having me be a part of your book club.
Thank you so much. So if you'd like to, in the chat, if you want to enter the raffle, you can put your email address or you can put your username in the app. If you remember that in the chat, Andy will collect them and shuffle them digitally and pick out the winner or winners. Charlene, how many you
Yes.
good with? One, 2,
Or
10?
a couple, 2, 3, 4, I
Okay.
don't know.
Oh, that's great. Okay, we appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. Charlene, we will see you again soon on the intros of National Inventor Club, always sharing tips and advice. Actually, are you available tomorrow night? Oh, we'll
I
catch
think
you.
so, but let me get back to you. I want to check
Okay. You probably
with
need a break.
people just in case.
But you probably we got you tonight, which we appreciate your time and your volunteering your time with us this evening to share. By the way, tomorrow night we have National Inventor Club, and we have this guy is unbelievable. You should take a look at some of his videos. I got him for us. His name is David Meltzer, and he's a business mentor. Speaking of business mentors, he is well sought after. He has a show called Elevator Pitch on Cheddar. He's got a lot of stuff going on, and he is extremely inspirational. So I get to pick his brain for us during National Inventor Club tomorrow night. So let's take a break, and we'll see you in about 23 hours from now again. So hopefully you all can join us. Charlene, thank you so much. Everybody,
you,
let's thank
everyone.
Charlene. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Charlene.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Great
Have a
job,
good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.